So for the video retake, I want to cover just two problems, one being a story problem and one being a regular problem, and I want to work on solving using the substitution method. If you remember from the first video, step one I had is solve for a variable. So in this top equation, I notice that y is already by itself, which is good news because the step one was done for us. We already solved for a variable. What I also could have done is this bottom equation has 2x. If I divided every term by 2, it also could have counted as solving for a variable as well, because I would have had x equals 2y minus 7. So you can use any of these three equations. I'm personally going to just use the original top two, but I just wanted to show you that this also would have worked. So what I do is I take that second equation, and which is 2x equals 4y minus 14, and I'm going to take this y value and I'm going to substitute what y equals from the opposite equation. So I get 2x equals 4y, which is now 3x plus 1, and then I had minus 14 on the back. If you're able to get here, this is by far the hardest step. So now we know how to solve this equation. We've done this many times. So I do the distributive property here. So I get 2x equals 12x plus 4 minus 14, which is totally fine. We combine these two things to get negative 10, and we subtract 12x from both sides. I'm just going to try to do both those steps at once. So I get negative 10x equals, this is 0, this combines to be negative 10. Now I divide both sides by negative 10, and at the very end of this process, I get the very nice and clean answer of x equals positive 1, which actually isn't too bad at all. So now what I want to do is I simply need to plug this back into one of the equations and find what the value of y is. Well, you can plug it into either, but I notice this top equation looks a little bit simpler. The numbers are smaller, so I'm going to plug it into that equation. So I get y equals 3x, x is positive 1, plus 1. So I get y equals 3 plus 1, or y equals 4. And so my answer here is 1, 4. Now, the most important part of any problem is being able to check your answer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase what we have and go all the way back to the original two problems. And I want to make sure that my answer is correct. So for the first problem, I have y equals 3x plus 1. So I get 4, that's my y value, equals 3 times 1, which is my x value, plus 1. And that is a true statement because 3 plus 1 does equal 4. So true. The bottom equation looks a little bit tougher. So I'm going to change my color here. 2 times x, which is 1, equals 4 times y, which is 4, minus 14. I get 2 equals 16 minus 14. That is also a true statement, and so my answer is correct. So the last problem we're going to cover is actually a story problem that we can solve using the substitution method. Now I want to point out, we have covered these problems many, many times before. You solved them using tables, you solved them using graphs, you solved them using critical thinking. All of those are good, but sometimes the substitution method is going to be the fastest method, and that's what I'm showing you here. So, 2 rental car companies are running specials this month. At Gwen's Rentals, customers will pay $54 to rent a midsize car for the first day, plus $4 for each additional day. So that certainly sounds like an equation of y equals mx plus b to me. And I'm hoping the song gets stuck in your head real quick. So at Winchester Rent-A-Car, the price for a midsize car is $44 for the first day and $14 for every additional day beyond that. Also certainly sounds like y equals mx plus b to me there too. At some point, renting from either one of the companies would cost the customer the same amount, so it's asking for the system of equations solution. How much would the customer pay? And then how many additional days would that take? So let's look at the two equations. Let's do Gwen's here and then Winchester down here. We know both equations needs to be broken up into the form y equals mx plus b. So Gwen's was $54 to rent a midsize car for the first day. That beginning value certainly sounds like the b value. So $54 for b. And $4 for each additional day. That sounds like the slope. So I think Gwen's is going to be 4x for our slope plus 54. Winchester, on the other hand, will be the same setup. 44 for the first day and 14 for each additional day beyond that. So now we have our two equations. And what we notice, step one said that we have to get one of the variables by itself. We actually have both equations by themselves, which is actually really nice. It makes this a little bit easier to solve. So what I can do is I'm going to take this value of y, and I'm going to replace it with what y equals in the second equation. So I get 14x plus 44 equals 4x plus 54. And now I just solve my equation like I've done many times before. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Whoops, got to get the pen on here. So I get 10x plus 44 equals 54. And now I subtract 44 from both sides. So I get 10x equals 10, so x equals 1. That's actually pretty nice, which means the first question, how many additional days would that take? So you would say after 1 day, we need to now know how much each company costs. So what I can do is I can plug x equals 1 into either equation. I'm going to plug it into Gwen's up here, which gives me 4 times 1 plus 54, which is 4, plus 54, which is 58. So after 1 day, both companies cost $58. And that is systems of equations. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is a tough section, so it will take some time. Don't feel bad if you need some help.